information-seeking behaviors, information gathering, and information communication.
Okay. So you're familiar with databases, does that sound right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And how does your familiarity with databases prepare you, or how did your familiarity with databases prepare you for your position as head of OAE?
It allows us to do queries of available data for either analysis or reporting.
Okay, so it's fair to say that your educational background has prepared you more for the financial auditing end of your job more than the whistleblower investigation end of your job. Is that accurate?
I would say that's accurate.
Okay. So other than consulting with OSHA, how did you get this information, from a website or from some other?
From the OSHA investigation manual.
How did you obtain that?
Yeah, obtained it online.
Okay. So it's fair to say that the OSHA Investigative Manual has aided you in your interpretation of MPS whistleblower policy.
That is fair.
Okay. Are there any other sources that have helped you interpret MPS whistleblower policy?
Not that I can recall.
Okay. And the board has never given you any instructions on MPS whistleblower policy directly?
I have not.
Okay. Have you ever asked them for any instruction or clarification on MPS whistleblower policy?
I have not.
Have you ever expressed any frustrations with them about MPS whistleblower policy?
You check the form.
Arguably, yes.
Okay, and you understand what expressing frustrations means?
I believe so.
Okay. So give me an example of how you express frustrations to the MPS board.
So in the executive session on January the 21st, I'm probably paraphrasing, but to the extent I told the board that what I perceived was 2 lanes of accountability that I observed in my role, and that if, and I also couched what I believed had happened to Dr. Keither as a new form of retaliation that was simply just going to be harder to detect and prevent, and that if it was allowed to proceed, I guess you could take the whistleblower policy and shovel it. And that is how I express my frustration.
Shovel it where?
A term of art for dismiss it, bury it, get
Okay.
rid of it. That was the intended communication when I said that.
Meaning it's worthless.
That, yes.
Thank you. You also just said 2 lanes of accountability. Did I
Yes, I
understand
did.
that right? What do you mean by 2 lanes of accountability?
In that context, I was referring to what appeared to be the report of a toxic environment on Dr. Holliday with apparently no visible accountability, and then the raising of a concern by Dr. Keither, which resulted in her involuntary special reassignment to Washington.
Okay. And would Dr. Posley what lane of accountability would Dr. Posley fit under that rubric?
You check the form.
Certainly more the former than the latter. The
lane of non-accountable? Is that what you mean?
in what I had described, yes.
Okay. And how would Dr. Keither fit in? What lane would Dr. Keither fit in?
What I deemed was the arbitrary, capricious, and retaliatory one, I guess.
Okay. And did you ever express your frustrations that the MPS whistleblower policy is worthless in physical format?
Check the form of the question.
I had a talking point in that presentation where I said, and I don't know if I used the words specifically, and to clarify, you'd ask if I'd read every word verbatim, and I did, with the exception of just a couple things I captured as notes to myself at the very end of it, but otherwise it was read word for word. But so I did definitely put it in writing there.
Okay. Did you throw your papers at anybody during that meeting? Or scratch that, did you throw your papers during that meeting?
So and I pantomimed this when I said shovel it. I had some papers in my hand and I did this on the table during that executive session. I recall when I said shovel it, that is what I did.
Okay, was your voice raised at that time?
Probably.
Okay, who were those comments directed to?
Everyone in the room.
Okay. Dr. Posley was there, correct?
That's correct.
Calvin Furman was there, correct?
That is correct.
All the board members except for Bob Peterson was there, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so to be clear, you didn't say you can shovel it at the second time with Bob Peterson. That was only at the first time, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't recall sharing that the second time.
Then that wasn't in the script either.
Correct.
Okay.
It was sort of the dialogue that was happening afterwards.
Thank you. So, to be clear, you gave a presentation, and just to back up another second, what besides all the board members and Bob Peterson, Calvin Furman, Dr. Posley, and yourself, who else was present at that meeting?
Dr. Mann would have been present.
Okay, and nobody else?
I don't believe so. No one else. I don't believe anyone else was in the room at that time.
Okay, and how about from the city attorney's office?
They were in the building that evening, but I think it was for an item further on that agenda. But I don't think they were in the room at that time. I apologize if I'm getting that wrong.
Okay, and would that have been Ms. Tobani or somebody else?
I think Ms. Tobani was there that evening, and I believe Attorney Yuen was also there. But I don't believe they were in the room at the time that I did my presentation. They were there for a subsequent item. Is my recollection.
Who's the other person he mentioned, the other attorney, city attorney?
Oh, Sheila Tobani.
No, the other one.
Jenny.
Okay, that's what I meant.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. She's at she's the exception. She went to the Quiet Company. Not Beal Better.
That's Mutual.
What was that?
Mutual?
Northwestern Mutual.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, the Quiet Company.
The Quiet Company, what does that mean?
I mean, that's a good question.
We'll talk offline.
Okay. What? So you just mentioned that the city attorney might have been there for a subsequent
Yes.
agenda item. What would that agenda item have been, if you know?
Oh man. That I don't recall. I do know that one of them was the evaluation of the board clerk. But I'm sorry that I don't recall what the other one was.
Okay. And those all would have been in closed session or something else?
Those would have all been in closed session.
Perfect, thank you. So, you give your report and then what happens?
At that point, I believe Dr. Posley sort of offered his rebuttal to what I had shared. I believe what he said was that, I'm paraphrasing, that Dr. Keither was disruptive. I believe he said something to the effect that she had swore in a meeting. And I'm trying to think what that's what I recall.
Okay. Can we have the report, please?
Yes, it's right here.
Okay.
This exhibit 1. That's the cleanest one.
I'm sorry.
I think, yeah.
No, that is clean.
Okay.
If you don't have a clean one, let me know.
I can read
It
it.
has another thing on it, but
Yeah,
I
okay.
I can read it.
trust that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can
Thank
read
you.
it.
And you're familiar with this document?
Yes, I am.
Okay, because you wrote it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
And this document is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages?
Yes.
Okay. Are you able to point me to where you said that there was comments that you, or notes for yourself that you made at the end that you didn't read out loud?
Yes.
Where are those?
So I believe I read very close to so I'm on page 5.
Mm-hmm.
I am through about the middle of the page where it says my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I'm mostly certain that I communicated that first dashed bullet point, and again, if not in exact form, but these were talking points, or basically notes to myself to deliver to the board in that second one, and everything subsequent to that I then did not read verbatim, because those were notes to myself.
So from 2 postings to viable candidates, those are all notes. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Great. Okay. And then also to be clear that the entire board heard all of the words on these 5 pages, either directly, or either the first time or the second time, up to, but not including the line 2 postings. Is that right?
Objection calls speculation.
I would join their objection.
Yes, it is.
Okay, and you have knowledge of that because you were there and read that document out to the board members, correct?
Correct.
Any
Okay.
objection?
Okay.
Likewise.
Do you have any reason to think that your sense impressions on that day are faulty?
Say that again, I'm
Gee,
sorry.
is your memory faulty for what happened on during this closed session meeting?
Not that I believe.
Okay. So I'm gonna start where there's a little break here, and it says the OAE has received multiple concern under Administrative Policy 6.35 whistleblower protections regarding the conduct of Interim Chief of Academics Dr. Jeremiah Holliday.
Mhm.
Is that fair reading?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Is that also a fair statement?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And we can assume that everything in here is a fair statement to your belief because you wrote it?
Yes.
Okay. And then it says multiple concerns. Who, can you list out, generally speaking, what those multiple concerns were?
The toxic environment under Dr. Holliday.
Okay. And that would have been all from Deb Bowling, Dr. Keither, and others?
Yes.
Okay. And presumably whistleblower B as well?
Yes.
Okay. About, did you receive other complaints about Dr. Holliday, but not from those 3 individuals?
So again, other individuals had approached in an informal, man, we want to bring these matters to your attention, but they didn't want to go on the record. And I don't recall everyone who that was.
Okay. And you've testified recently regarding Dr. Garcia Hoven's case, is that correct?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and that was even last week, Friday and Thursday? Or Friday?
Friday.
Friday, okay. And during that, we discussed that there was a level of formality that you required to move a complaint forward, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and you also testified that you and you alone were clear on what that level of what was sufficient to meet that level of formality, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and we also were clear that that whistleblowers are not aware of that requirement for formality when they file complaints to your office, correct?
Check the form to the extent that it misstates testimony from the Garcia Hoven matter.
I think that's correct.
Okay, and it's also correct that if complaints don't meet the sufficient level of formality, then you take the complaint on a receiving basis only. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say.
Okay. And it's also fair to say that the complainant is not aware that you are taking the complaint on a receiving only basis or actually investigating the complaint. Correct?
I'm going to object to a call speculation.
That's
foundation.
It's really on a case by case, especially if the individual shares with me that whatever their fear is, that they don't want me to proceed. In which case, then they are aware.
Okay. Are you a man?
I'm sorry if you may. When somebody's objecting, just let them finish and then answer the question after it, okay? Because
There's no right. Okay. And we didn't get an objection from the court reporter, but that's all accurate. That we'll all try that. I'm sure we all participated in that. So okay. Now I'm just going to direct you here to the second set of bullet points, and it says specifically concerns surrounding mismanagement and abuse of authority within MPS as set forth in Administrative Policy 6.35.
That is
Okay.
correct.
What were those concerns of mismanagement and abuse?
I think basically just an inability to move work forward, and mismanagement in the extent that requests of staff would not be acted upon.
Okay, and so inability to get things moving forward. One of those examples would be Dr. Keither's request to get curriculum approval. Is that your understanding as well?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And specifically, Dr. Keither works in the literacy curriculum department. Is that your understanding?
I believe so.
Okay. And she expressed and, in fact, even showed you multiple emails to and from her to Dr. Holliday requesting assistance or approval on the curriculum approval process.
That's my recollection.
Okay. And you've seen those emails?
That's my recollection.
Okay. And that would have happened because Dr. Keither copied you on those emails or for some other reason?
She forwarded them to me.
Okay. So it's fair to say, though, if you haven't read those documents line for line, you've at least been exposed to them. Does that seem fair?
That's fair.
Okay. Okay. Then we're going to go on to harassing and bullying behaviors that create an environment of hostility and toxicity. Did I read that part right?
Yes.
What are these harassing and bullying behaviors by the Dr. Holliday that you were referring to?
I think heightened scrutiny, and I don't know, just an approach with staff which does not engender a healthy working environment.
Okay, you said engender?
Yeah, or maybe create a healthy working environment is a better.
Okay. Okay. And you've read the Peterson report?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And to your knowledge, did that report state that employees despair coming into work when Dr. Holliday is in charge?
If that's not the exact wording, it's close.
Okay. And does it also generally say that employees despair coming to work because Dr. Holliday ridicules them for every slight, real, or imagined?
That does. I believe it does say that.
Okay. Are these the same behaviors that you're talking about in these 2 bullet points?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So it's fair to say that you had a similar finding based on your investigation that Robin Peterson from the city attorney's office had based on his investigation the year previous.
Yeah, based on receipt of information from Dr. Keither, yeah, and what was communicated by other people who had come forward to me, yes.
Okay. And just to focus in on that period of time, between the Peterson report and your report, Dr. Holliday was ordered to undergo counseling but didn't undergo counseling. Is that right?
Just to form this case prior testimony.
Can you say the time frame again? I'm sorry.
Great. Between the Peterson reports and your report in January,
Yep.
did Dr. Holliday undergo any kind of corrective action to fix the problem?
Check a phone call for lack of foundation.
I don't know. I recall that he was directed to do so. I don't know if he did. I'm sorry.
Okay, but you also understand that he refused to do so, at least initially. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay.
Formative question.
Okay. And that's you understand that because you were told or received an email based on that?
From Exhibit 3.
Okay. But were you aware of that at this time?
I don't know if I was aware of it at that time.
Okay.
I was certainly made aware of it as I conducted my investigation.
Okay. And you, just going down there, it says January 7th of 2020. That's the last filled in bullet point on that page?
Yes, I see it.
Okay. Assistant City Attorney Robin Peterson issues the findings of his investigation of the concerns surrounding Dr. Holliday. His findings include, and then it goes on to say, a conclusion that Dr. Holliday made a race-based hiring decision in violation of the law and district policy.
That's correct.
Okay. And based on your understanding and investigation here, what action, if any, was taken based on Robin Peterson's finding that Dr. Holliday made a race-based hiring decision in violation of the law and district policy?
Check to form black foundation.
I believe he was directed to counseling.
Okay. And that's again the counseling that he refused to go to.
I'm going to object to the extent that it misstates prior testimony and also mischaracterizes the exhibit that you're relying upon for that statement, which is Exhibit 3. You go ahead, Nancy.
That's my understanding.
Great. And then you also read verbatim from the city attorney's report, and it says, while there is only one substantiated allegation, I have taken care to qualify the findings of no substantiation in the remaining allegations upon consideration of them in isolation. When taken together, they join a larger mosaic of allegations regarding the reported historical conduct of Dr. Holliday, which does raise some cause for concern. Did I read that right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you agree with those statements?
Yes.
Okay. And then it also says, in conducting this investigation, I have spoken with a wide range of employees of the district, of differing races, of different sexes, of different jobs and levels within the organization, some retired and some still employed. Did I read that?
Yes.
Okay. I acknowledge that these witnesses are self-selecting in that they are also Dr. Holliday's critics and thus are likely to provide negative information about him and are also likely to direct me to interview others that are known to them to share negative opinions of Dr. Holliday. I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Then it goes on, I would expect that Dr. Holliday could point me in the direction of self-selecting, praising witnesses. However, nonetheless, I am struck by the consistency among these critical witnesses, both in the nature of the criticism, but also their depth of feeling. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Based on your interview with witnesses of Dr. Holliday's behavior in the Dr. Keither matter, did you find concerns of those witnesses to be the same as the witnesses that Mr. Peterson interviewed?
Check the form of question.
I would join the objection.
Yes, they're consistent.
Okay. Then it says, it was a near universal sentiment that the work group under Dr. Holliday is a toxic and hostile work environment. Did I read that right?
Yes.
Okay. Is that the same findings that you found?
Those are consistent.
Consistent. Okay. And then it goes on to say that the employees under Dr. Holliday operate in fear, intimidation, and under a watchful eye that scrutinizes every move, where he publicly ridicules every blunder, real or fabricated. Did I read that right?
I feel like you missed
It's the third sentence in that paragraph.
I'm sorry. I feel like you skipped over something. I'm sorry.
Okay, then I'll read it again. That the employees under Dr. Holliday operate in fear, intimidation, and under a watchful eye that scrutinizes every move, where he publicly ridicules for every blunder, real or fabricated. Did I read that right?
Yes.
Okay. Are those similar concerns to the ones that Dr. Keither raised?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Keither also raised concerns about Felicia Saffold. Is that true?
Yes, you did.
Do you know who Felicia Saffold is?
I believe her title is Senior Director of Curriculum Instruction.
How is she? Where is she in the management structure related to Dr. Holliday?
At that time, I believe she would have reported to Dr. Holliday.
Okay. Direct report or something else?
I believe direct.
Okay. Are these allegations by Robin Peterson against Dr. Holliday, are they similar to the allegations that Dr. Keither raised against Felicia Saffold?
Yeah, I believe they're similar.
Okay, and specifically that under a watchful eye that scrutinizes every move, where Felicia Saffold publicly ridicules for every blunder, real or fabricated? Are those similar?
Yeah, I believe those are similar.
Okay. And then it also goes on to say, most witnesses express considering filing their own complaint of leaving the district and of losing hope that anything will change or get better so long as Dr. Holliday is in a position of influence. Is that an accurate reading?
Yes.
Do you believe that to be true?
I would object to the form of the question.
I'll join.
Yeah, I believe it to be true.
Why?
Based on what individuals have shared with me about their concerns within the district, that would be consistent with what they have told me.
Did you believe that to be true on January 21st of 2021?
Yes,
Okay. And you still believe that to be true now?
I do.
Okay. And again, Dr. Holliday is still employed by MPS.
Yes.
Okay, and that's still after you raised all these concerns, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's in distinction to the first two complaints that you raised, correct?
Check the form.
They
So, for example, Mr. Chenin is no longer with MPS, correct?
That is correct.
And Mr. Parikh is no longer with MPS, correct?
That is correct.
So that would be a distinction there between the first two complaints you raised and these other complaints that you raised against Dr. Holliday, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And what about the complaint raised by Mr. Furman against Mr. Posley? Was any action taken place against Mr. Posley?
Object to foundation, cause of speculation.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Is there any reason why you wouldn't be aware of any action taken against Mr. Posley?
Object to foundation, cause of speculation.
Procedurally, I'm not in an executive session in which there is a performance evaluation of the superintendent.
Okay. Well, after you gave this report, do you know whether or not the board renewed Dr. Posley's contract?
I believe that's correct.
Okay, how soon after you gave this report did the board renew Dr. Posley's contract?
Object to form foundation.
I don't know the exact time frame, but I believe it was within the next several months.
So, is it possible that it was March 21st of 2021?
Object to foundation.
In March, April, or May, in that time frame, yes.
But it's fair to say within 4 months they renewed Dr. Holliday's contract.
Yes.
Okay. Did Dr. Posley promote Marla Brunei to your knowledge?
Can you give me that time frame?
Was there more than one? Do you know if he promoted Marla Brunei more than once?
Trying to recall. It was under his tenure superintendent that Chief Bernal was, I believe, installed into her chief position. So he would have promoted her into that or made that appointment.
Okay, are you aware of Chief Bernal getting any substantial raises during your time as, we'll say, from 2019 to present?
Object to foundation.
I'm not familiar with any.
Okay. So you're not aware of whether or not she got a $26,000 raise at any time?
Object and ask and answer. He says not familiar.
I don't know what the lift in salary was between her previous position in the district and the one in which she was chief. I don't know.
Okay. Did Mr. Furman raise any concerns regarding her pay or working conditions?
Oh, working condition.
Yeah, I'm gonna object compound form.
Great. So we'll start with the first one. Pay, the answer is no?
I don't remember pay.
Okay. What about working conditions?
Working conditions, yes.
Okay. What about her working conditions did Mr. Calvin Furman complain about?
That staff would complain that it was an unhealthy environment,
Okay.
that she was non-supportive, and also that things would not move.
Okay,
That's what I recall.
and that's similar to Dr. Keither's complaints against Dr. Holliday, correct?
Those are similar.
Okay. And there was 2 complaints that Mr. Furman sent to you, is that right?
It was twofold. One was regarding the toxicity underneath Marla Bernal, and the second one was a concern about federalization.
Okay, and both those concerns were embodied in the December 7th, 2021 exit survey, or was there another document that embodied the second concerns?
My recollection is that those concerns were shared in what it was his whistleblower complaint to me.
How was that complaint shared to you?
I believe he shared it in person.
Okay, so it's fair to say that Calvin Furman wrote out a complaint against Posley in the form of an exit survey in which Chief Bernal was mentioned, but then he also made a separate complaint to you about the relationship between Mr. Posley and Ms. Bernal. Is that correct?
Those are two separate documents.
So there's another document that exists that's a complaint against Chief Bernal. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and do you have a copy of that document?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and will you provide that document to me?
First off, you want to provide to the council.
Yeah, that's already.
So if you want to make a request for it from council, you can, but, and we'll review it to the extent that it's an MPF document and not his to produce. We'll take a look at it and see what's going on there. So if you want to make your request for him to produce a document to council, council can share it with me if it is in fact an MPF document, and then we will act accordingly.
Do you understand the question?
Yes.
Can you answer that question?
Argumentative.
I'll be happy to comply with whatever's required of me.
Okay. Are you, have you given this document to anybody else?
I believe I shared it with Miriam Horowitz.
Okay, anybody else?
I don't recall anybody else.
Okay, yeah, not Kate Headley or Jenny Yuan or anybody from the city attorney's office?
No, I don't know. I don't recall sharing with them.
Okay, have you shared it with the board?
I did not, but as part of Miriam Horowitz's report, that might have been included in there.
Okay, have you seen Miriam Horowitz's report?
Yes, I have.
Do you have a copy of that?
No, I don't.
Because that was taken from you by Jacqueline Mann?
It was collected from anyone who had a physical copy of it at the end of that executive session.
So the last person you saw with that document was Jacqueline Mann, is that correct?
Or Attorney Horowitz.
Okay. Have you discussed this letter with anybody besides those two people?
Objective form, what letter? Which one?
Do you misunderstand the question, sir?
We're talking about the whistleblower complaint that was shared with me by Mr. Furman.
Right, and we're also talking about the second document, the whistleblower complaint that was shared with you by Mr. Furman, which we don't have.
Oh,
So that's the document that we're talking about, the one that was withheld. Okay, we're on the same page now?
yes. So it related to that document. Have I discussed it with anyone else? I definitely spoke about it with Attorney Horowitz, and I think I discussed it with Dr. Mann. I think that's all. I think that's everyone I shared it with, or discussed it with.
Okay, why didn't you give the withheld complaint to the board?
I'm going to object to the characterization of it as the withheld complaint, but
Okay.
it's argumentative. You can go ahead.
I'll join the objection as well.
So I had turned that over. So having asked the board for their permission to seek outside counsel to investigate the matter, I then turned it over to the external investigator.
Okay. And maybe we've covered this before and I'm just confusing because this is the time when you were directed first to go to Bulow Vetter and then to Miriam Horowitz.
Yeah, if not direct.
I'm going to object to the mischaracterization of his testimony
Okay.
in the form of that question.
Do you want to? Is it the directed? Is that what the issue is?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
The use of the word directed.
Yeah, having obtained the approval of the board to seek an outside investigator, and my memory is that an ask was made first of Belo Better, and I do not recall why we did not go there, but we ultimately ended up with Miriam Horowitz.
Okay. And are you familiar with the MPSU fraud investigation?
Yes.
Okay. And was the MPSU fraud investigation going on at the same time when you requested to have an outside counsel investigate Mr. Furman's allegations?
I believe so.
Okay. And what is the nature of the MPSU fraud investigation?
I think there's a couple different things. The administrative code cited earlier, PI 8, and I believe it was 34 that was mentioned. There was some, I believe, look into the payment by participants, I believe, as well.
Okay.
And then perhaps a review of what, if any, documents were asked of participants to sign. That's what I recall.
Okay. But it is fair to say that both of these investigations are going on more or less at the same time?
I believe so.
Okay. And who, if anybody, conducted the MPSU fraud investigation?
So for clarity, we have a whistleblower matter that we've received about MPSU, but also there is, to my understanding, a review going on by internal audit into MPSU.
Okay, so there's at least two investigations that you know of.
Yes.
Is there an outside investigation that you're aware of?